Writer, hello and welcome back to the deep dive. If you are tuning in today, well, you are probably nursing a very specific kind of emotional hangover.
Oh, absolutely a massive one.
Yeah, it's that Manchester United post-match feeling where you are sitting there this morning not quite sure if you have just witnessed a tactical masterclass in resilience or an absolute highway robbery that's going to have the authorities knocking on the door.
It really is the paradox of the ugly win, isn't it? You wake up with 3 points in the bag, the table looks fantastic, but you also wake up with a few new gray hairs that definitely were not there before kickoff.
Definitely. It is the relief, that tangible, heavy sense of relief. Because today we are diving deep into that Monday night clash at Everton's Hill Dickinson Stadium, February the 23rd, 2026. A 1-0 win for Manchester United.
And look, let's be totally honest right from the jump here. This was not the kind of performance you put in a museum. This wasn't Barcelona from 2011.
No, not at all.
This was a scrap. It was a Monday night in February. It was cold, it was hostile, and frankly, it was a really difficult watch for large portions of the game.
It was a brutal watch at times. But if you look at the league table, it's a sign of a team with a backbone. Though, if you look at the passing maps from the first half, it looks like a team that met each other in the car park 10 minutes before kickoff.
Spot on. And the narrative arc we really need to explore for you today is about that tension. Is what we are seeing under Michael Carrick actual sustainability, or is it just luck?
Because let's unpack the match briefly before we get into the weeds. We are looking at a team that completely struggled to string 3 passes together in the first half, but somehow found a way to win through absolute defensive heroism and just one moment of brilliance.
And that's the mission for this deep dive. We are going to figure out if this winning ugly thing is a feature or a bug for United. We have a massive stack of sources today to help us.
We do. From the tactical breakdowns in The Athletic to the raw, unfiltered emotion of the Reddit threads and those columns by Henry Winter and James Ducker.
The mood out there is just a fascinating cocktail of disbelief, relief, and this rapidly growing optimism.
It really is. We have to talk about the rise of Michael Carrick, the caretaker, who actually cares. And whether this run is the real deal, we have to talk about the super sub phenomenon that is Benjamin Sesko.
Well, we absolutely must talk about the man of the match as well. The new cult hero between the sticks, Senne Lammens. The stats we have on him today are frankly ridiculous.
They are absurd. And of course, the wider picture, the top 4 race, is heating up in a way I don't think many fans expected a few months ago. So let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into part 1, the Carrick effect.
Right. Let's start with the cold hard facts of the result first. 1-0 away at Everton. Now, historically and certainly under David Moyes, Everton away is a nightmare fixture.
A total nightmare.
It is physical, it is hostile, and they just make you defend your box for 90 minutes plus stoppage time.
It's a bar fight, basically. It's not a football match, it's a brawl. And United have faltered there so many times in the past. They get bullied, the crowd gets on top of them, and they just crumble.
Exactly, they usually fold.
But this time they leave with a clean sheet. And that result extends what is becoming a very serious run of form under Michael Carrick.
It's not just a new manager bounce anymore, is it? Let's look at the numbers because they are quite staggering. Since Carrick took interim charge, United have taken 16 points from a possible 18.
16 from 18. That is title-winning form, statistically speaking.
It is. That is 2.66 points per game. They are 10 games unbeaten in the league right now. In his last 5 games specifically, it's 4 wins and 1 draw. You simply cannot argue with the maths of that.
No, you can't. If you projected that over a season, you are talking about a 100-point season. Now, obviously the sample size is small, but the consistency of result is undeniably there.
You can't argue with the maths, but you can certainly argue about the style. And that's where the vibes versus reality debate really kicks in. We have this piece from Henry Winter, who is usually quite poetic about these things.
What did he say?
He said, and I'm quoting here, 16 points from a possible 18. A system that suits the players, a style that reflects and respects club traditions, players enjoying their football pride, back in the shirt. It's Carrick, you know.
Wow, that is high praise. That paints a picture of a glorious renaissance, doesn't it?
Extremely high praise. But then you go to the fan reaction on Reddit, specifically the RAR/Reddles community, and the tone is a bit different.
A reality check?
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about Vibes FC returning. One fan commented, I wasn't comfortable watching it, but 3 points is 3 points. Another said, even though it was pretty ugly football, I still felt it was coming.
And that sentiment that I felt it was coming is the dangerous part, isn't it? because it implies a reliance on individual moments rather than structural dominance, and that's the crucial shift from the Ruben Amorim era.
Spot on. Under Amorim, the data suggests United were conceding in 15 games in a row. They were incredibly fragile. They might have played this exact same match, had the same struggles in possession, but lost 1-0 because the defense would have cracked.
But under Carrick, there is a resilience. Henry Winter mentions a system that suits the players. I think that's the key debate for you as a listener to ponder. Is sitting deep and hitting on the break the actual system, or is it just survival mode?
Well, let's look at the comparison some fans are making. There is a fear of Ole 2.0.
Oh, the Ole 2.0 fear is real.
Very real. The idea that a club legend comes in, improves the mood, gets results through individual brilliance and pure vibes, but lacks the tactical structure to challenge the likes of City or Arsenal over a full 38-game season.
Yeah, that ceiling is always looming.
However, you have to credit Carrick for the immediate turnaround. You mentioned the fan comment about the football being pretty ugly. That is completely fair. But in the context of a top-4 race, ugly points count just as much as pretty ones.
Absolutely, they do. In February, on a Monday night at Everton, style points are for losers. You take the ugly win and you run to the team bus. But speaking of ugly, let's move into part 2, the match breakdown. Because if we just look at the scoreline, we miss the absolute trauma of that first half.
Trauma is exactly the right word for possession purists. I was looking at the passing networks and the turnover stats, and they are just damning. In the build-up zone, so we were talking about your own defensive third and the start of the midfield. United lost the ball 35 times in the first half alone.
35 times? That is staggering.
It really is. That is almost once a minute.
It's asking for trouble. It essentially invites pressure. To put that in perspective for you, an elite possession team might lose the ball in that zone 5 or 6 times in a half. 35 times is essentially inviting the opposition to punch you in the face repeatedly.
Exactly. The midfield struggled immensely to connect passes to the forwards. It looked so sluggish. There was a comment on Reddit speculating if the lads went for a few beers during the 13-day break prior to the match because they looked that far off the pace.
It did look like a holiday hangover performance, didn't it? The touch was heavy, the decision-making was slow. And Bruno Fernandes, the captain, usually the talisman, well, the fan sentiment was that he had a complete stinker.
He really struggled. And this is the issue with United's current setup under Carrick when it faces a physical block.
Yeah.
If you are playing a transition-based game, you rely heavily on your trigger players, the ones who play the killer pass to start the break. Usually that is Bruno.
Right, but Everton made it a physical battle. David Moyes set them up to be completely horrible to play against. Every time Bruno got the ball, he had an Everton midfielder breathing down his neck.
When your main creative outlet is being stifled and your deep midfielders are turning the ball over 35 times, you are essentially playing with one hand tied behind your back.
And we really have to credit Everton here. David Moyes set them up perfectly for what he wanted to do. They were direct. They were physical.
They made United defend their box, which is a phrase Carrick actually used in his post-match assessment. That phrase, defend the box, is crucial. It is a proper old-school concept.
Yeah, it means accepting you won't stop the crosses coming in, so you just have to be perfect at clearing them.
Exactly. Moyes actually said after the game that he felt they didn't deserve to lose, that they were the equal of United for much of the contest.
They probably were, to be fair. And can we talk about the corners? Because that was a specific tactical element that had absolutely everyone talking.
Oh, the corners. That was fascinating to watch, the crowding strategy.
Yeah, fans were likening it to rugby or the tactics Arsenal have been using recently. They were packing the 6-yard box, putting massive bodies right on the goalkeeper. It was a huge stress test for United's defensive organization.
It was pure chaos engineering.
Yeah.
Traditionally on a corner, you have movement, runners attacking the ball. Everton flipped that. They parked 3 or 4 massive players right on top of the goalkeeper, literally touching him.
Just pinning him in.
Pinning him completely. They pack the 6-yard box so tight that the keeper cannot move. Then they drop the ball right on top of that scrum. It removes the goalkeeper's ability to come out and catch the ball easily. It turns the box into a pinball machine.
It is nasty stuff. But in previous iterations of this United team, perhaps earlier in the season under Amorim or even last season, one of those corners goes in. It creates chaos. The keeper flaps the ball, drops in goal. 1-0 Everton.
Almost certainly. Panic sets in, the ball ends up in the net, and the game is effectively over. But that did not happen this time.
Which brings us perfectly to the man who stopped that from happening. Part 3. The savior between the sticks, Senne Lammens.
the undisputed star of this deep dive. If Carrick is the architect of this running, Lammens is the foundation.
We have to give him his flowers today. Man of the match. The stats are incredible. 43 touches for, saves 2 high claims, 0 goals conceded.
The high claims are the stat that matters most against this specific Everton side. With that crowding tactic we just discussed, you need a goalkeeper who commands his area with immense physical bravery and perfect timing.
Because if you miss, it's a goal.
Exactly, and Lammens didn't miss.
And the eye test, he just looked, as James Ducker put it in his article, cool, calm, and collected.
Ducker's comparison is really fascinating. He wrote that Lammens is everything Onana was not. Now, Andre Onana had his strengths. He was a fantastic shot stopper in many ways, but calmness wasn't always top of his list.
No, his style was quite chaotic. He parried balls back into danger. He created a lot of anxiety for the back line.
Right, and United fans on Reddit are expressing this massive sense of relief now. They talk about having safe hands and not seeing the keeper throwing them in on a regular basis.
It changes the whole anxiety level of the stadium, or in this case, the away end. When the fans trust the keeper, the defenders trust the keeper. It is psychological safety.
Absolutely. If I am Harry Maguire and I know the guy behind me is going to drop the ball, I can defend entirely differently.
I want to bring in the expert insight here with some advanced metrics, because the eye test tells us he looks good, but the data tells us he is elite. We have data from Opta's xGOT model, that is expected goals on target.
Okay, let's unpack this for the listener who might not be a massive stats nerd. We all know xG goals, but what does xGOT tell us specifically?
So xG measures the quality of a chance before the shot is taken. xGOT measures the likelihood of a shot becoming a goal after it has been struck, based on where it is placed in the goal and how hard it is hit.
Right, so basically if a striker shoots right into the top corner, the xGOT is very high.
Exactly. If he shoots it straight at the keeper, the xGOT is low. A positive number for a goalkeeper means you are saving goals an average keeper would concede. So it isolates the keeper's performance from the defense's performance.
Precisely. And here is the stat that blew my mind. Since his debut on October the 4th, Senne Lammens had prevented 5.5 more goals than the average goalkeeper.
5.5 goals in just that short time frame.
In just a few months. It is an absurd number. Over a full season that puts you in the conversation for the best keeper in the world. No other Premier League keeper matches that record in that time frame.
That is effectively an extra 5 or 6 points he has earned the team single-handedly. That is literally the difference between 4th and 8th place.
It is wild. And he has got the personality to match. Did you see the note about his interaction with Edwin van der Sar?
I did, yeah. He was seen interacting with the club legend. Lammens talks a lot about keeping out external noise. He exudes this quiet confidence that just spreads to the back line. He is not frantic. He is not performing for the cameras. He is almost boring.
For a goalkeeper, boring is perfect.
Boring is beautiful when you are 1-0 up at Everton in the 90th minute. But he wasn't doing it alone. We need to talk about the man right in front of him. Part 4. The defensive wall. Harry Maguire.
Harry Maguire's renaissance continues. It is a remarkable story, really. One of the great redemption arcs in recent football history.
With Lisandro Martinez absent, there was a real worry. Martinez is the ball player, the aggressor, the huge fan favorite. But Maguire stepped in, and according to the fans and the pundits, was rock solid.
Immense was another word used quite a bit. This game was tailor-made for Harry Maguire. If you ask Maguire to play a high line against Kylian Mbappe, he will struggle. We all know that.
Yeah, that's not his game.
But if you ask him to stand on the edge of his own box head away, crosses wrestle with a physical striker like Calvert-Lewin or Beto, and block shots, well, he is world-class at that. That is his absolute bread and butter.
And the partnership with Lammens seems to be really clicking.
It does. They look like an assured partnership. It is symbiotic, really. Because Lammens claims the crosses, Maguire doesn't have to panic. And because Maguire wins the first header on the long balls, Lammens isn't exposed to point-blank second balls. They clearly trust each other.
But it wasn't just the defenders defending. And this is a stat that really stood out when I was reading through the notes. Matheus Cunha.
Yes. This is where we see the Carrick effect in the overall mentality. We expect Maguire to clear the ball.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily expect Matheus Cunha, a Brazilian flair player, a technician, to be doing the dirty work.
No, you really don't.
But he made 11 defensive contributions in 94 minutes.
11. That is a massive shift. That signals a serious buy-in from the squad.
It does. When your attackers are tracking back, making tackles, clearing corners, it shows they are fighting for the manager and for the result. It is not just about glory. It is about the grind. It signals they are fighting for the badge, not just for their own highlight reel.
And speaking of glory, let's get to the fun part. The moment that justified all the suffering of the first 70 minutes, part 5. The winning moment. Minute 71, the deadlock is finally broken.
It was classic Manchester United. If the first 70 minutes were a massive struggle, these 12 seconds were absolute perfection.
12 seconds. That is the Opta stat, from the defensive clearance to the ball actually hitting the back of the net. Talk us through the sequence, because this is the system Henry Winter was talking about, right?
This is the blueprint. It starts with that defensive resilience we just praised. Lammens to Maguire, a clearance under immense pressure. The ball finds its way to Cunha, who we just praised for his work rate, who is involved in the build-up, managing to retain possession in a really tight area. Then the ball goes to Mbeumo.
Brian Mbeumo. Jamie Carragher called him the perfect Manchester United player for this exact reason.
Because of his ability to carry the ball. Mbeumo isn't just fast. He is incredibly powerful. He drives from his own half into the opposition half, committing defenders, drawing them in. He creates the space just by running with the ball. He drives the whole team up the pitch.
And then the pass. And the finish. Benjamin Sesko.
A banger of a finish.
Yeah.
That is the technical term, by the way. He took it early, hit it with power right into the corner. Cool, decisive. No hesitation whatsoever.
And once again, he does it coming off the bench. This super sub narrative is becoming the story of the season.
It really is. And it has sparked a massive debate among the fan base. You see it all over the threads. Can you start Sesko already?
Right. Fans are screaming for him to start. They see him score every single week and think, why is this guy sitting on the bench? Why are we starting Xerxes or Hojlund when this guy is the one consistently putting it in the net?
But then you have the counter argument, which is quite compelling. Imagine you are an Everton defender. You have been wrestling for 60 minutes. You are tired, your legs are heavy, your concentration is slipping, and then you see this huge, speedy 6'4" Slovenian striker coming onto the pitch.
It's terrifying.
It's absolutely lethal. He exploits those tired legs better than anyone else right now. His pace is so much more effective when the opposition is fatigued. So maybe his best role is as this impact weapon, at least for now.
It is the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer role.
It is exactly that. And Solskjaer made a whole career out of reading the game from the bench and destroying teams in the last 20 minutes. It's a luxury problem for Carrick to have, to be honest. And the fans are absolutely loving him. Seskomania is running wild.
The Seskosexuals, as they're calling themselves on Reddit.
I saw that. Very creative bunch. But it speaks to a real connection, doesn't it? It does. Look at his celebration. He ran straight to the away end. He was quoted saying, "Home fans are people." One fan said it gave them goosebumps, that he is one of us. That really matters. United fans want to feel like the players care as much as they do.
And he did the post-match interview in English all by himself. That impressed a lot of people. It shows he is settling in, he is confident, he's taking leadership, he is not hiding behind a translator, he is owning the moment.
And Mbeumo, as well praised, is the best signing of the season alongside Lammens. These summer signings are finally paying dividends. The spine of the team is looking really healthy.
For years, we criticized the recruitment, but Mbeumo has been electric. Lammens is a brick wall, and Sesko is a goal machine. Credit where credit is due.
So what does this all mean? We've got the win. We've got the clean sheet. Let's look at part 6, the wider implications. Because this wasn't just a win. It was a massive shift in the league table.
Huge. It was a 6-point swing, effectively. This win moves United up to 4th, or at least very close, depending on the goal difference nuances. But the sources say they are effectively occupying that 4th spot now. They are just 3 points behind Aston Villa in 3rd.
And they have put some real daylight between them and the chasers. 8 points clear of Brentford in 7th. That is a significant buffer. That takes the pressure off slightly.
We have to talk about why that 4th spot, why the Champions League is so crucial right now. We saw the financial reports.
Record revenue, £666.5 million. It sounds like an awful lot of money. But the devil is always in the details. They are facing a significant drop in match day and broadcast revenue because they aren't in the Champions League this season.
So they absolutely need to get back in to balance the books.
Without a doubt. The club needs that Champions League money to sustain the wage bill and fund future transfers. As one fan put it, Europe is back on the menu. And it has to be for the business model to work.
Which leads us nicely to the biggest question of all, the managerial conundrum. Should Michael Carrick get the job permanently?
It is the million-dollar question. Or perhaps the $10 million question for INEOS.
Let's play devil's advocate for a moment. What are the arguments for giving it to him right now today?
Arguments for Well, the results are undeniable. 16 out of 18 points. The clean sheets. The player buy-in we saw from Kuna. The magic returning to Old Trafford, as Carrick himself put it. The fans are singing his name. He knows the club inside out. He has stabilized a sinking ship.
And the arguments against?
The honeymoon period factor. We have seen this exact movie before. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had an incredible start. The football, as we discussed, was pretty ugly against Everton. Can you win the league playing like that? Probably not.
No, you really can't.
You can't rely on your goalkeeper making 5.5 xGOT saves every month. That is not sustainable long term. There are genuine concerns about getting stuck in the past, the Ole 2.0 fear we mentioned.
Simon Stone is reporting that the club is taking their time over the decision.
Which is definitely the smart move. INEOS, the new ownership structure, they are highly data-driven. They won't be swayed just by a few emotional wins. They will want to see how Carrick handles the next big test. There is no rush. Carrick is in the building. The results are coming. Let's see how they handle the adversity when it inevitably hits.
Let's move to part 7, fan sentiment and culture. Because it really feels like the toxicity that was clouding the club under the end of the previous regime has lifted.
It is completely evaporated. Winning cures everything, of course. But it is more than that. It is the way they are winning. They are fighting for it.
There was a quote from Ruben Amorim a while back about needing to be competitive and adult.
Yes, and ironically, it seems Carrick has actually achieved that maturity that Amorim wanted. The team didn't panic when they were playing poorly in the first half. They didn't completely collapse. They were adults about it. They defended, they waited, and they took their chance when it came.
And the fans are enjoying the schadenfreude too, mocking Everton for their corner antics and time wasting only to lose late on. That is just part of the fun of football.
Oh, absolutely. Everton tried to make it a horrible game with the dark arts and the time wasting. To beat them at their own game, to score late and leave them with nothing, that is the sweetest kind of victory for an away fan.
It creates a real bond.
It does. Us against the world. They tried to kick us off the park, but we won anyway. That built a robust culture.
And you see it in the threads. The humor is back. The Sesko sexuals, jokes, the memes about Lammens being a brick wall. When the fan base is laughing and making memes, the club is usually in a very good place.
So let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
It wasn't a classic performance. Far from it. Do not buy the DVD.
Definitely don't buy the DVD.
Yeah.
But it was a classic result.
A proper top 4 push result. You need to win ugly on a Monday night in February if you want to be hearing that Champions League anthem in September. You can play beautiful football and lose 4-3s, and nobody cares when May rolls around.
And the key takeaway for me is the recruitment. Lammens and Sesko, those summer signings, are really paying massive dividends.
The spine looks fixed. Goalkeeper, center back, with Maguire's resurgence, and striker with Sesko. For the first time in years, United look to have a proper backbone. And that gives you a genuine platform to build on.
But here's the final provocative thought for you to ponder. Carrick has steadied the ship. He has got the results on the board. But looking ahead, the fixtures get much tougher. Newcastle, Aston Villa are mentioned in the upcoming runs. These are teams that will absolutely punish you if you give up possession 35 times and a half.
Exactly. Can winning ugly sustain them against the true elite? Or do they need to start playing genuinely good football soon? That is the real challenge. Survival is one thing. Dominance is entirely another. Carrick has mastered survival. Now we need to see the evolution.
And indeed we do. We will be watching very closely. Thank you for listening to this deep dive. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown.
Glory, glory Man United.
See you next time.